She thought she could take my $80,000, block me from the venue, and get away with it. She was dead wrong. Honey, pour yourself something strong because the level of audacity I am about to describe to you is not for the faint of heart. We are talking about betrayal, we are talking about financial ruin, and we are talking about the kind of family drama that makes the Kardashians look like a PBS documentary. I'm still shaking just typing this out. And honestly, I don't think I'm ever going to recover from seeing the true face of my own flesh and blood. Let me take you right to the moment my heart shattered into a million jagged little pieces. It was Tuesday, just 3 days before the big day. I was sitting at my desk looking over the final invoices for what was supposed to be the wedding of the century. My daughter, Bianca, was getting married. I had spared no expense. I'm talking a botanical garden venue, a 5-course plated dinner, an open bar with top-shelf liquor, and a live jazz band. The works. I realized I hadn't received the final confirmation for the seating chart, and I wanted to make sure my brother, Uncle Tony, had been added to table 4 like I asked. So I picked up the phone and called Marco, the wedding planner. Now Marco and I had been cool for months. We were buddies, but the second he picked up the phone, his voice was weird, strained, like he was talking to a creditor he owed money to. I said, "Hey Marco, just checking on the guest list update for Tony." Dead silence on the other end. Then he clears his throat and says, "Listen, Elena, the guest list is locked. I can't add anyone." I laughed. I literally laughed because I'm the one signing the checks. I said, "Marco, darling, I'm paying for the extra plate. Just unlock it and add him." He got quiet again. Then he said, "I can't. The bride has given strict instructions that the guest list is confidential and no changes are to be made by anyone but her." I felt a little prickle of irritation on the back of my neck. "Marco, I am the mother of the bride. I am the financier of this entire event. Send me the list right now." He refused. He actually refused. He told me he couldn't violate his client's privacy. I saw red. I told him, "Marco, you have 5 minutes to forward me that PDF, or I am calling your agency's owner, who I happen to play tennis with, and telling her you're obstructing the client. I am the client. My name is on the credit card." He sighed, the kind of sigh that says, "I'm about to lose my job either way," and he hit send. I opened the email. I scrolled down. I saw the names of her friends from college. I saw her fiance's family. I saw random people I've never heard of. I scrolled to the family section. My name wasn't there. My husband, Julian, her stepfather, wasn't there. I thought, okay, this is a typo. It has to be a typo. I called Marco back, my voice shaking just a little bit. "Marco, why aren't Julian and I on the list? We need to be at the head table." And that is when he dropped the bomb that ended my world. He said, "Elena, it's not a mistake. Bianca sent me an email last week. She explicitly removed you and Julian. She also hired private security for the door specifically to, and I'm quoting here, ensure Elena and Julian do not gain entry to the premises." I almost dropped the phone. The room started spinning. I felt like I had been punched in the gut by a heavyweight boxer. I paid $80,000 for a party where my own picture was on a do not admit list at the security gate. If your jaw is on the floor right now, go ahead and hit that like button because, honey, I haven't even gotten to the worst part yet. The level of disrespect is about to go through the roof. Let me back up and tell you how we got here because you need to understand that this wasn't just a random act of cruelty. This has been brewing for years. Bianca is 27, and let's just say raising her was like trying to hug a cactus. I love her, she is my daughter, but she has always been difficult. Her biological father, my ex-husband Richard, left us when she was 7. He didn't just leave, he moved to Europe with a woman half his age and basically pretended we didn't exist. He sends a card maybe once every 2 years. I was the one who stayed. I was the one who held her while she cried. I was the one who worked double shifts to build my business so she wouldn't feel the financial loss. When Bianca was 13, I met Julian. Julian is a saint. He's kind, he's patient, and he adored me. But Bianca, she decided the moment she met him that he was the enemy. She treated him like dirt. She would ignore him when he said hello. She mocked his job. She would accidentally break things he valued. I thought it was just teenage angst. I thought, she's hurting because of her dad. She'll grow out of it. Spoiler alert, she didn't. Her teenage years were a nightmare of pills, sneaking out and hanging around with people who looked like they had criminal records. She almost got expelled from high school for possession of illegal substances. Who went to the principal's office and begged? Me. Who got her into a private counseling program? Me. Who paid for her college when her grades were trash and she barely got in? Me. Even as an adult, she struggled. She couldn't keep a job. She was always the victim. Her boss was mean. Her landlord was crazy. Her friends were toxic. It was never her fault. Until about a year ago, she was still asking me for rent money every other month. Then she met Liam. Liam seemed nice enough, though a bit of a doormat. They got engaged fast. They came to me with these puppy dog eyes, saying they were broke, but they wanted a dream wedding to start their lives together. I should have said no. I really should have, but I'm a mother. And despite everything, I wanted her to be happy. I wanted to have that moment where I zipped up her dress and we cried happy tears. I thought maybe this wedding would be the bridge that finally healed us, so I wrote the checks. The venue, the caterer, the florist, the dress. I paid for it all, and in return, she blocked me. After I got off the phone with Marco, I sat there for an hour, just staring at the wall. The shock was wearing off and the rage was setting in. But I needed to hear it from her. I needed to look her in the eye. I tried calling her, straight to voicemail. I texted her, no reply. Then I remembered. It was the day of her bachelorette brunch. I waited 24 hours, nothing. The next day, the day before the wedding, I drove to her apartment. I didn't call first. I just showed up. I pounded on the door. It took 5 minutes for her to open it. She looked annoyed, like I was a solicitor trying to sell her solar panels. She was wearing a silk robe that I bought her for Christmas. "What are you doing here?" she asked, blocking the doorway. "I'm busy with prep." I looked at her, searching for any sign of guilt. "Bianca," I spoke to Marco. Her face didn't even twitch. She just crossed her arms and leaned against the doorframe. "Okay, and? I stepped closer, my voice shaking. "You removed me and Julian from the guest list. You hired security to keep us out of the wedding I am paying for." She rolled her eyes, a literal eye roll. "Look, Mom, I knew you'd make a scene. That's why I didn't tell you. I want a vibe at my wedding. I want it to be young, fresh, and drama-free. You and Julian, you guys just bring this heavy, judgmental energy. I don't want you there." "Judgmental energy?" I whispered. "I paid for the venue you're standing in tomorrow. I paid for the champagne you're going to toast with." She huffed, inspecting her manicure. "Stop holding money over my head. That's so manipulative. You offered to pay, and that was a gift. Once you give a gift, you don't get to dictate how it's used. That's like gift giving 101. "So you're saying," I said, trying to process the insanity, "that my gift was paying for a party that I am banned from?" "It saved you the travel time," she said with a smirk. A cold, heartless smirk. "Honestly, you should be thanking me. You hate parties anyway. I'll send you the photos if I get around to it. Now, can you leave? I have a spray tan appointment coming here in 10 minutes. She started to close the door. I put my hand on it. "Bianca, if you close this door without fixing this, there is no coming back." She looked me dead in the eye and said, "Good for you. Save your gas money. Bye, Mom." And she slammed the door in my face. I stood in that hallway for a full minute. I could hear her giggling inside, probably texting her bridesmaids about how she just handled me. I walked back to my car. I sat in the driver's seat. And for the first time in years, I cried. Not a polite cry. I wailed. I cried for the little girl I used to braid hair for. I cried for the teenager I defended. And then the tears stopped. And something else took over. I drove home. I walked into the living room where Julian was reading the paper. I told him everything. I told him about the list, the security, the judgmental energy, and the door slam. Julian is the most forgiving man I know. He usually tells me to be the bigger person, but when I told him she smirked about saving us the travel time, his face went hard. "Elena," he said quietly, "she cannot treat you like this, not after everything. You cannot let her walk down that aisle on your dime while you sit at home." He was right. I walked into my office. I pulled out the folder with all the vendor contracts. I picked up the phone. I called the venue first. "Hi, this is Elena, the contract holder. Yes, I'd like to cancel the event scheduled for tomorrow." The manager started panicking. "Ma'am, it's less than 24 hours away. You won't get a refund." "I don't care about the refund," I said, my voice ice cold. "I want the event canceled. I want the doors locked. I want the security team to turn everyone away." Then I called the caterer. "Cancel the food. Donate it to the homeless shelter if you've already prepped it. Just don't deliver it to the venue." Then the florist. "Cancel the delivery." Then the DJ. "Don't show up." I went down the list. I scorched the earth. I burned the entire kingdom to the ground. By the time I was done, I had lost about $65,000 in non-refundable deposits, but I didn't care. The next day, the wedding day, I sat on my patio with Julian drinking coffee. My phone was off. Julian's phone was off. We just listened to the birds chirping. But oh, I heard about it later. Apparently, Bianca showed up at the venue in her dress with her bridesmaids, ready for her young, fresh vibe. The doors were locked. The venue manager met her outside with a clipboard and the cancellation notice. When she started screaming, the security guards, the ones she had asked for to keep me out, were the ones who had to escort her off the property for trespassing. The caterer never came. The flowers never came. The guests arrived to find a confused bride screaming profanities in a parking lot while her fiancé tried to hold her back. It was chaos. Absolute, unmitigated chaos. She tried to call me from her friend's phone. I didn't answer. She drove to my house, still in her wedding dress, banging on my gate. But I had changed the gate code that morning. She screamed at the intercom. She called me a monster. She called me a jealous, bitter hag. She threw a rock at the gate camera. I watched it all from the monitor in my kitchen, sipping my tea. You might think I felt guilty. And honestly, a tiny part of me did. It's hard to destroy your child's dream. But then I remembered her face when she told me my money was a gift she was entitled to. I remembered her smirking, and the guilt vanished. Now, before I tell you what happened in the aftermath, make sure you're subscribed because the update I'm about to drop involves police intervention and a twist I didn't see coming. The fallout. The immediate fallout was nuclear. Bianca went on social media and blasted me. She wrote these long, unhinged posts about how her narcissistic mother ruined her big day because she couldn't stand not being the center of attention. She conveniently left out the part where she banned me from the wedding I paid for. Most of her friends rallied around her, calling me evil, but my family, my parents, her grandparents, they were horrified. Initially, they were mad at me. They said, "Elena, you can't be that ruthless to your own child." I showed them the emails. I played them the audio from the Ring camera where she was screaming slurs at my gate. They went quiet. Then my dad said, "She's broken. We tried to spoil her and we broke her." 2 days after the non-wedding, the venue planner called me. He said they were threatened with a lawsuit by Bianca for emotional distress. I told him, "Good luck to her. The contract is in my name and I have the right to cancel at any time." I also cut off her credit card, the one she used for emergencies, which usually meant Sephora runs. I stopped paying her car insurance. I removed her from my phone plan. She was effectively stranded. Update 1. 2 weeks later. It's been 2 weeks of silence from my end and pure noise from hers. I found out through the grapevine that Bianca and Liam are staying on a friend's couch because they spent all their savings on the honeymoon tickets, which I didn't pay for, thank God, and non-refundable deposits for things I didn't cover. But here is where it gets interesting. You guys asked about the stepdad hate. Why does she hate Julian so much? I did some digging. I found an old journal of hers in the boxes she left in our attic. I know I shouldn't snoop, but I was desperate for answers. In it, she wrote about how she hated Julian because he was boring. That's it. He was boring. He had rules. And he didn't let her get away with talking back to me. She called him a simp for loving me. But the real kicker? She wrote that she felt entitled to my money because mom owes me for choosing a new man over her own daughter. She sees my marriage not as me finding happiness, but as me betraying her. She thinks that because I remarried, I owe her a lifetime of financial compensation. She also tried to smear Julian online, calling him a gold digger, which is hilarious because Julian is a retired architect with his own portfolio. He has never asked me for a dime. Meanwhile, she's the one who drained my accounts. My parents tried to visit her to mediate. They went to the friend's house where she was crashing. They offered to pay for a small courthouse wedding if she would just apologize to me. She screamed at them. She told my 70-year-old mother to get out of her face and accused them of taking my side because I bought their love too. My parents came back looking 10 years older. My mom was crying. She said, "I don't know who that person is, but she's not the granddaughter I held in my arms." At this point, I am done. I have blocked her on everything. I have changed the locks. I am grieving the loss of my daughter, but I feel lighter. Update 2, 5 months later. Okay, this is the one you've been waiting for. Grab the popcorn. I hadn't heard a peep for months. I knew from mutual friends that Bianca and Liam went to the courthouse and got married. No party, no guests, just papers. They moved to a cheaper city about 3 hours away. Last Tuesday, my phone rang. Unknown number. Usually I ignore these, but I had a gut feeling. I answered. Hello? Elena, it's Liam. He sounded terrible. His voice was cracking like he had been crying for days. Liam, is everything okay? Is Bianca okay? My heart jumped. Even though I'm done with her, I don't want her dead. She's fine, physically, he said, but Elena, I left her. My jaw dropped. You what? I left her. I'm at a motel. I can't do it anymore. He asked if we could meet. He drove 3 hours back to our town. Julian and I met him at a diner. The boy looked like a ghost. He had lost 20 pounds. He had a bruise on his arm. He told us that ever since the wedding cancellation, Bianca had spiraled. She blamed him. She blamed the world. But mostly, she took it out on him. She would scream at him for hours if he bought the wrong brand of milk. She threw plates. She punched a hole in their drywall. He told us that she has a serious, undiagnosed rage problem. He said, she talks about you, Elena. She talks about you constantly. She hates you with this obsession that is scary. She says she's going to make you pay. He looked at me with tears in his eyes. I tried to get her to go to therapy. I tried to love her through it, but last week she threw a boiling cup of tea at me because I asked her to help with the rent. I had to leave. He apologized to me. He apologized for not standing up to her during the wedding fiasco. He said, I knew it was wrong to ban you. I knew it, but I was afraid of her. I bought him dinner. I gave him the number of a good lawyer. I told him he wasn't weak for leaving. He was smart. Then he dropped the final bomb. She wants to come home, Elena. She's broke. She can't make rent on her own. She's going to call you. I went home and braced myself. Sure enough, 2 days later, a letter arrived, not a text because she's blocked. A handwritten letter. It wasn't an apology. It started with, Dear Mom, now that you've successfully ruined my marriage and turned my husband against me, I hope you're happy. She went on to demand that I let her move back in because she is destitute, and it is my legal obligation as a parent to support her. She said if I didn't let her move in, she would go to the press and tell them I abused her as a child. I read the letter to Julian. He didn't say a word. He just walked to the shredder, took the paper out of my hand, and fed it through. Update 3, the resolution. We sent a cease and desist letter via our lawyer. We told her that any further contact would result in a restraining order. We also made it clear that any false allegations made to the press would be met with a defamation lawsuit that would bury her for the rest of her life. It's been quiet since then. I reached out to her old best friend, Chloe, the one girl Bianca never fought with, who lives in London now. I asked Chloe to check on her just to make sure she wasn't, doing something drastic. Chloe called me back a few days later. She managed to get Bianca on the phone. Apparently, losing Liam was a wake-up call, but not the one we hoped for. Bianca isn't sorry. She's just playing the victim harder. She's telling anyone who will listen that her mother and husband conspired to destroy her. She is currently living in a studio apartment, working as a receptionist. She is seeing a court-mandated therapist because of a domestic disturbance charge from the night Liam left. Neighbors called the cops when she started throwing things. My lawyer says she has no case against me. My parents have written her out of their will. It hurts. I won't lie to you and say I'm doing a happy dance. I miss the potential of who she could have been. I mourn the relationship we never had. But my house is quiet. My bank account is safe. And for the first time in 27 years, I am not walking on eggshells in my own life. I realized that you can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved. And sometimes unconditional love doesn't mean unconditional funding. So tell me in the comments, was I too harsh? Should I have just let her have the wedding and cut her off later? Or did she deserve to have the rug pulled out from under her? And ladies, if you have a daughter who treats you like an ATM, take it from me, close the bank. Outro. Thank you for listening to another chaotic saga from the Reddit Lounge. If this story made your blood boil, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next tea spill. And seriously, let me know what you would have done in my shoes. Until next time, keep your standards high and your bank accounts locked.